Finding good usable water on our homestead wasn't easy, but it started by hiring a well witcher. After he came out, he found two good locations. One was 128 feet deep and one was 12 feet deep. Literally, as soon as he left, I started digging. With my postal logger, I got down 14 feet deep, and obviously there was no water. I rented a mini excavator and again was able to get down about 14 feet. The soil was getting damp, but no water. There was one particular spot that I was fairly certain had water. After digging down just a few feet, the hole began to fill up with water. The next morning when I showed up at the property, this is how full it had gotten. I knew we'd solved our water problem, but the next question is how to best capture this water, pump it nearly 500 feet up the hill, store it properly where it's not going to freeze, then filter it in a way where it's going to be usable around the property. My backhoe would dig around 18 feet deep, so my goal was to dig a 12 foot by 12 foot by 18 foot deep hole, thinking that would be enough water for what we would need. The well seems to be flowing about 15 gallons per minute. We're in the middle of a drought as well, so I knew this was good. Now that I have the water established, I have to figure out how best to capture this. I decided to use 48-inch concrete culverts as a well cistern. Placing them on top of each other ended up giving me about an 18-foot deep cistern. I was able to get these at the scratch and dent price of about $600. I then got about 30 tons of gravel and started filling up the hole around the concrete cistern. I then put a landscaping fabric down first to try and keep any silt or sediment out of the cistern. Punching through the side of the cistern, I put my 1-inch pipe in place, sealed it, then covered it with 6mm plastic. Now to run the water line. On top of running the water line, I also placed what's called a 16-2 landscaping lighting wire. I will use this wire as the on-off switch when my water tank is full. I'm only running one 1-inch water line from the well all the way up to my 2,500 gallon water tank, which ends up being about 130 vertical feet above my house and almost 900 linear feet. Along the way, we installed 6 different Woodford yard hydrants. I did not pressure test the water lines before backfilling, but using PEX I was more than confident that we wouldn't have any leaks.
The backhoe would only go so far up the hill, so I had to get the excavator to finish the job. There was a spot on our hill that was a perfect spot for the water tank. Initially I thought it was about 90 feet high, but I later found out it was about 140. This inevitably affected the water pressure in a good way. I had to backfill as I went because this was the road that I was going to use to transport the water tank up the hill. I spent a good 4 hours making sure that the pad was perfectly level and there were no rocks that could potentially rub a hole in the water tank. Two layers of carpet underneath it ensures that I won't damage the bottom of this tank. I also made room for a second water tank that we may install sometime next year. The tank itself only weighs about 400 pounds, but it's big and bulky. I strapped her to my old truck and I was able to get it up the hill without any issues. Carefully using the excavator, I got it in place. I now tie in the PEX water lines and I'm ready for the solar panels and the well pump. I ended up going with a company called RPS Solar or Rural Power Systems because they had a complete kit. After emailing with them, they talked me through the process and it was very cut and dried, very straightforward. I initially installed the solar panels and it went up without any problems. This is the well pump that sits about 2 feet off the bottom of the tank. Their system also has what's called a dry switch. If we ever pump out too much water, it shuts the pump off instead of letting it continue to run. Following their instructions, I wired it up as they specified, and voila, we've got water. Initially, I thought I would have around 45 to 50 psi, but we ended up with 85 psi. Come here, Rug. Here, right now, come here. Here, get some water. But after a 2.5 year struggle, getting the water done is an absolute game changer. The top right hand corner is the in-depth videos of the Shallow Well playlist.